legendary funny man. We can only hope he's standing in front of a brick wall. Craig Gass, who has been kind enough to join us. There he is. He is, he's absolutely, he should get paid by every sports team in this city, because anytime it's like, here's a photo of Craig Gass in Paris at the French Comedy Festival, and he's wearing like a Seahawks hat. He's always got it going on.
Yeah, I'm bummed out that we're doing this virtually, because this means I can't commiserate with your other guests and hit them up for tickets. That's what I would usually do, is try to make some friends so I can get tickets to other events. That's which sometimes doesn't go well. I remember doing when I was at the Howard Stern show one morning, and John Bon Jovi came in, and John Bon Jovi said a lot of really nice things about me during the interview. And I thought, oh man, this is my chance, because he was performing 2 sold-out shows at Giant Stadium. So when we went to commercial, he started heading towards the elevators, and I timed it so that I could be in front of him when he got to the elevator. And I said, hey, John, good seeing you. And he said, hey, funny man, good job today. And as he got in the elevator, I said, hey, those shows aren't really sold out, are they? And John turned around and went, oh, man, that's cold. And the elevator doors closed, and I went, that's not what I meant. No. Thought I was insulting him. I wasn't. It was like a lame attempt to go, oh, man, is it really, there's no tickets left? I was implying I want to go, and then he walked out on me. Yeah. So,
hey, are you keeping sane, staying home? I mean, I can't imagine you being in one place for this long.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been. I've done some shows. It's wow, and I'm already starting to think of the warning that Gass gave me about what to say and what not to say. But I've been doing online comedy shows. And
wow.
And some of them have been corporate shows where I do the same kind of homework, where I ask companies, how clean or how dirty do you want me to be? And tell me some funny stories about your job or your employees. And I'll get the same kind of intel information where, like, hey, there's a guy named Dave who works in accounting, and he got caught watching porn at work. And we'll start the show, and I'm usually on stage in a dark room, and I'm doing my jokes, and I'll say, hey, I understand Dave in accounting got caught pumping off at work, and then Dave is in a box looking right at you, going, what the? And he's got his kids with him, going, the anonymity doesn't. It's not the same. I can't just stand on stage and throw my jokes out into an empty, into the darkness. I have to look right in the face of everybody who I'm making fun of. So I'm getting by. And then most recently, for the last 2 weeks, it's been I've been getting hit on to share stories about living with Eddie Van Halen, because Eddie Van Halen passed away. And
that's a guy who, all 3 of us are, I think Gros and I are a little older than you, but he would have really hit all 3 of us in terms of music we liked, and a superstar. And, so 65. I'll tell you what, Gros, 65 sounds pretty damn young, doesn't it?
I'll take it.
At this point. Give us it's such a great story. I haven't heard for a while about how does a schlup like you, or me for that matter, end up living with Eddie Van Halen? How'd that happen?
I was backstage at a concert in Los Angeles, and a guy was introducing me to all these music industry types. And at one point he said, oh man, I'm gonna bring you over to this guy. This guy lives with one of the biggest rock stars on the planet, but don't tell him I told you that. And he introduces me to the guy. The guy knows who I am. So we exchange phone numbers, and we make a plan to go bowling. And he showed up at the bowling alley with Eddie Van Halen. And I come to find out he's Eddie's assistant, and he lives on his property in a guest house. And he's such a fan of the Stern Show that he would get up every morning at 5 a.m. to go into the studios and listen to the show for 4 or 5 hours at a time. And he's telling Ed about me when I started showing up, and said, oh man, there's this guy who's on the show now who does a perfect Gene Simmons impression. And then a week later, oh my God, the same guy does a Sam Kinison impression. And then a week later, oh my God, the same guy does a Tracy Morgan impression. And so at the bowling alley, Eddie Van Halen is telling me my life story back to me. One of which was, and this was really surreal, I told a story on the air about how I've been broke my whole life. And all I've ever wanted, if I could have enough money, was to get an illegal cable box. That's all I've ever wanted to own, was one of those illegal cable boxes that unscrambles all the channels. And at the bowling alley, Eddie, who's smoking a cigarette, you're not supposed to be smoking in the bowling alley, he said, dude, I heard you've been broke your whole life. Is that true? And I said, yeah. And he said, yeah, me too. And I heard that, is this true? You always wanted a legal cable box? And I said, yeah, that's crazy, because and he looked both ways and he went, I got a legal cable box too. And I said, what? Are you serious? And he goes, the thing is, I'm rich, but don't want to pay for cable. And I was like, serious? It was one of the most surreal experiences. And then over the course of the next year and a half, I started hanging out at the studio with his assistant, and then occasionally Eddie would show up. And then I got in a bad relationship that ended in a really terrible way one night. And Eddie said, dude, pack up your stuff, move in with me. And I said, is that okay? And he said, yeah. He goes, dude, you can live in the recording studio. Stay as long as you want. The only thing is, don't tell anybody, but the band's getting back together, so it's going to be noisy at night. And I went, so the only thing I have to worry about is the fact that Van Halen is going to be playing in the next room. And he said, I know you're working on your TV show. So I packed my stuff up and I moved in the recording studio and continued to live my life while living in the shadows of a guy who was super famous. I remember one night taking his assistant to a Metallica concert, meeting a girl who we started texting each other throughout the night. And at midnight, she said, hey, do you want to hang out? And I said, sure. And she called me and she said, where are you? And I said, I'm in the Hollywood Hills. And she said, you want me to come over? And I said, sure. And you know what? Let me find out if that's okay. I'll call you back. She said, oh, you have a girlfriend. And I said, no, I do not have a girlfriend. I'm very much single. I'm in a really unique situation. So let me call you back. So I hung up. I got a hold of Ed and I said, Ed, I don't know if you heard, but I met a girl tonight. She wants to come over. Is it okay if I keep her at the studio? Is it okay to have a girl? And he said, dude, get some tail. And I was like, okay, cool. So he didn't say tail, by the way. So to meet me at the bottom of the hill, there's a Ralph's supermarket right there on Coldwater Canyon in Ventura. And I had her leave her car there. I still don't know how to tell her my circumstances. She's peppering me with questions about, why do you have to get permission to have someone over? And I said, it's a really unique situation. So I pull up to the back end of there's two gates to get in. The back gate is the one next to the studio. So I pull up through the back gate. I park at the studio. I open the door and I let her in first. And she walks in and goes, wow, is your friend like the biggest Van Halen fan on the planet or what? And then at one point she starts discovering these plaques where she goes, how do you get one of these? What? And I finally just told her, do you hear the music in the other room? That's Van Halen. This is Eddie Van Halen's place, and he's just letting me stay here until I get back on my feet. And she went, oh, okay. And to answer the next question that every guy always asks, the answer is 2 minutes. From that moment, 2 minutes. So there you go.
You mentioned Kinison, and actually, I don't know if you've seen it. The Showtime is running a series, a doc on the Comedy Store. Mm-hmm. Did you ever perform down there?
At the Comedy Store? Yeah, I performed all the time. my name is on the wall.
Is
And
it?
yeah, and there's so many stories about Sam there, and the legend of Sam. I personally, I always remember this thing that I saw. Bob Costas. Remember Bob Costas used to do this amazing show after the Letterman called Later with Bob Costas. Every person that sat in front of Bob at some moment in the interview would always go, "How did you know that?" He always just seemed to do an incredible amount of homework on all of his guests. And he had Sam Kinison as a guest on his show. And I remember watching it going, what is Bob Costas going to know about Sam Kinison? And Bob starts out by saying, Sam, I used to watch you back in the early 80s, back when your entire act was based on that day's obituaries. And I remember thinking, you know what? This guy's brilliant, but he's too dark and he's never going to make it. And Sam went, oh my God, I forgot about that. And he explained the bit. And this is really, really dark. But apparently Sam used to go on stage with the obituaries from today's newspaper and would go on stage and go, hey, folks, my name's Sam Kinison. And I want to thank you guys for coming out. Thanks for supporting stand-up comedy. And I'll tell you a couple people you won't be seeing here tonight. And then there you go. What is that? Esther Goldberg? Esther? No, well, no. She's not here. She didn't catch the bus. She's not here. But apparently, if you want to see her work, it's going to be on display this Sunday at Evergreen Mortuary. Oh, dark. But yeah, it's crazy that the stories about Sam, the ghost stories, that Comedy Store special is breathtaking. The amount of work that goes into it, and the story that his best friend Carl tells is amazing.
Yeah,
Carl was there, and there's this awful story that has been around for. It was a rumor for a long time, and then Carl finally came out and said he had just learned that his daughter was actually Sam's daughter. Sam had an affair with his best friend's wife, and Carl had no idea. It's crazy. Yeah, the whole story is nuts.
Hey, speaking of shows with comedians, I watched on Netflix last night Letterman's latest interview with Dave Chappell, and he talked about two masters at Letterman. This new thing he's found of doing these hour-long sit-down interviews. Obviously, he's terrific at it. He knows what he's doing. And for Chappelle, it was, I'd never seen anything with him where he opened up as much as he did and kind of talked about who he is and where he comes from, and just fascinating stuff.
I have found like the two guys who have been really kind of skyrocketing Chappelle for the last, 15 years, and then and Bill Burr for the last few years. They both have humility in common, a tremendous amount of humility. And that's in comedy. That is the thing that will sustain you, is the humility. Having any kind of an ego will just kill you. I have the most amazing story about the first time I met Dave Chappelle. It was it's related to a Washington athlete. It's a 2-minute story. Do you have time for a 2-minute story?
Of course we do.
So I have been friends with Todd McCullough since the 90s. Todd McCullough was playing University of Washington. He was playing for the Huskies basketball team.
Right.
And, along with a German guy, I can't remember the name of the German guy he always hung out with, who was his teammate. And so Todd McCullough and I stayed friends through the late 90s. And then I get to New York and my career starts progressing. It takes me to New York. And at the same time I go to New York, Todd gets drafted by the NBA, ends up in Philadelphia with the 76ers. Todd comes to New York to play the Knicks. And we make a plan to go out to dinner. And I said, dude, I got to take you to a comedy club. You have to see the material I'm working on. You'll really love the material I'm working on. So I go to dinner with Todd and 3 of his teammates from the 76ers. We all go out to dinner, and his teammates are saying, hey, man, Todd says you're pretty funny. And I said, oh, man, wait till you see me tonight. I am so funny. I'm hyping myself up so much. I will be one of the funniest comedians you've ever seen. I'm overselling this. We get to the club, and there are 2 audience members at the club. And I go, oh wow, and I said, hey, is it okay for my friends to, and they're happy to see anybody. They go, yeah, please, we just triple our audience, bring them in. So now the 4 guys I just had dinner with, I'm standing in front of them with a microphone now and going, how you guys doing tonight? And it's awkward. It's a terrible setup. So I obviously bomb. I walk out in front of the club, and I'm miserable talking to the door guy. And this is 1998. The door guy goes, well, maybe we can get Dave Chappell to come in and save the show. At the time, Dave Chappell was known for the movie Con Air, and he was known as a great comedian. And I said, is Dave Chappell around? He goes, yeah, that's him sitting in that car right there. I walked over and I knocked on the window. Dave rolled down the window, and I said, hey, man, my name's Craig Gass. I'm a stand-up comedian. I have a couple guys from the Philadelphia 76ers inside. Is there any way we can get you to come in and do a set? And Dave said, word? And I said, yeah, do you mind coming in? He said, yeah, man, let me get some smokes. I'll be right back. And he took a walk down. I don't know why all my impressions involve smoking, but Dave takes a walk to the deli at the corner, and I'm standing in front of the club with the doorman when 6 businessmen walked by, and they said, is there anybody famous performing tonight? And I said, yes. As a matter of fact, somebody's about to come back right now that's really famous, that's about to go on stage. Please come in. And they said, oh, you're trying to take our money. And I said, no, please, no cover. Come on in. And they so now we've doubled our audience. We have 12 people in the crowd. And Dave Chappelle goes in and performs for an hour in front of 12 people.
Jeez.
And to my point about humility, the next guy that was about to be on stage that Dave had bumped was a guy who was on The Real World season 2. He was a comedian who was famously, he tried to pull the blankets off one of his castmates, Tammy, and he was a young African-American man who was a stand-up comedian, and he's waiting to go on stage. And he's furious that Dave has bumped him. And he's looking at us going, is anyone going to tell Chappelle to get off stage? And we went, and so he decides he's going to walk in front of the stage and eyeball Chappelle to intimidate him. So he walks by in front of the stage and just goes, like, what's up? And Chappelle was sitting there and he goes, yeah, man. Hey, that's the dude from The Real World right there. And everyone's like, and the guy from The Real World turns around and plugs a movie and says, Family Reunion, Warner Brother Pictures, July 1999. And totally quiet. She goes, we'll be sure to look out for that. And the kid from Real World starts yelling at Dave and says, Dave, listen, man, it ain't easy being a black man in the entertainment business. It's hard being black and being an entertainment man. It's hard. And Dave goes, hey, man, I agree with you. And you know what? What he's saying is right. It is hard to be a black man and be in the entertainment business. That is true. Of course, it is harder for some. More than like this kid was coming at him with pure anger and hatred in his heart. And like the Matrix, he was just effortlessly dodging all the bullets, and they were all just flying over him. After the show, I introduced Dave to Todd McCullough. Todd hooks me and Dave up to the tickets to the game. Me and Chappelle sit together at the game. We become friends for the first time, exchange phone numbers, and Chappelle puts together the Chappelle Show, where he uses Todd McCullough as his token white guy for the NBA in a couple sketches over the first 2 seasons. And that's how that friendship started. It was crazy.
It's amazing. You've got a lot of those interesting things. So we don't have much time left, but now that you've opened up the floor to requests, I think I heard that. Could we get on our whole thing today, maybe a little Gene Simmons, but I'm going to throw a twist at you. Gene, while he's smoking a cigarette, just to keep in, the mood of the day.
Hi, everybody. This is Gene Simmons from KISS. And right now, for a limited time, we are selling Ace Freely cigarettes for $29.95. Go to kissonline.com. Also, get all your coronavirus needs. We have masks. We have sanitizer. We have what's it called?
Hydroxychloroquine.
Whatever it is, it's $59.95 at Kiss. Go to kissonline.com, click on my codpiece, the only website broadcasting live from a real wet market in Wuhan. We'll see you at kissonline.com.
Beautiful.
Craig, you are the best, man. We appreciate you jumping in with us and being a part of this live stream for Jamaica Basketball. And maybe we'll all be together in 2024 in Paris at the Olympics, sitting in Dave Chappell's courtside seats.
I can't wait, man. Thanks for having me on, guys. I'll see you.